Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mike Colleen at MikeColleen.com. Alright, so one of the things that my videos, the intention is to help you to become emotionally free and to feel emotionally calm. So the number one thing that I specialize in, if I could put it in a word or a phrase, is emotional healing for emotional freedom. I think that's the purpose of why we're here, is to finally one day to become completely emotionally free and just to become who we are or who we want to be. Now this video is going to talk about something called what's called the mirroring syndrome, or what I call the mirror man syndrome. Now, after dealing with my last narcissist, I came across this video on YouTube, and I'm going to pull it up right now. It is Dr. House, and let's see, it's called the Mirror Man House MD. So you can look that up on YouTube if you'd like, or maybe if I remembered, I'll put it in the description box, or if I don't, then go ahead and tell me, I'll put the link in there. So here's the deal. There's something called mirror neurons, and if I understand correctly, if I remember right, they're in your frontal lobes, okay? And I tell you what, I'm going to just read an introduction off to it. So, as mirror neurons represent a distinctive class of neurons that discharge both when an individual executes a motor act and when he observes another individual performing the same or similar motor act. These neurons were first discovered in monkey brains. Monkey see, monkey do, okay? Let me go down a little bit, and it says human infant data using eye tracking measures suggest that mirror neuron system develops before 12 months of age, and that this system may help human infants understand other people's actions. Okay, too closely related model. Okay, no, that's just boring stuff right there. So essentially, here's how mirror neurons work. Mirror neurons essentially allow you to learn by copying people. So in sports, it's a really, kind of obvious thing. Martial arts sports, like, you do what they do, so you can do what they do. So it's a way of learning how to learn and to develop. Now, this is something that infants do a lot. They literally just copy. Okay, they just mirror. Okay, I've made a long video about how they literally just copy, like a video recorder. They're recording you. Whereas in adults, we're not supposed to video record, we're supposed to just mirror enough to gain rapport, which opens up the communication channels, okay, so you can understand each other better. Well, with narcissists, they don't do that. They just constantly mirror. They constantly, mirror you like they're a little infant. So that's why it's kind of this, they have this creepy look in their eyes. So yeah, literally what's happening is they're becoming you. They're copying everything you do. Now, here's the bad part. Is when somebody is mirroring you, constantly mirroring you, here's the reverse effect. You become them, or you take on their emotions and feelings, especially if you're a very right brain, open emotional person, okay? Meaning an empath. So here's what happens. You literally take on their energy, okay? So for those of you who went through that unbelievable, I'm going to use the phrase, I don't think this is quite the correct phrase, but it gets the point across. Call it dark night of the soul, that lasted for like 2 or 3 years, where you were just like, it was like darkness, and it was evil, and it was just scary, and it was like, what in the hell is this? It's like you lost who you were. Okay, it's like you felt empty inside for the first time, and like, well, what is this? Like it's like you lost yourself. So it's a very, very horrible place to be. Now, essentially what happens is mirror neurons mirror the other person, okay? So this is why you have to really learn how to become an internal being, have your awareness inside, and become emotionally grounded. By the way, there's a really good message after all of this video. There's something I'm trying to get you to understand. So there's really good news here. And it's really what you've been searching for, but didn't quite understand. Why am I watching all these videos on YouTube about narcissist abuse? There is an end game. So let me read just one more thing off here. from this article. It says, mirror neurons are one of the most important discoveries in the last decade of neuroscience. These are a variety of visual spatial neurons which indicate fundamentally about human social interaction. Essentially, mirror neurons respond to actions that we observe in others. The interesting part is that mirror neurons fire in the same way when we actually recreate that action ourselves. Apart from imitation, they are responsible for a myriad of other sophisticated human behavior and thought processes. Defects in the mirror neuron system are being linked to disorders like autism. This review is a brief introduction to the neurons that shaped our civilization. So here's the deal. One of the things I had said to the last narcissist when he came back, I had said, do you have some form of autism? Because something is wrong with you. You need to seek professional help, okay? So one of the things they will say about narcissists is they have damaged prefrontal cortexes. And at least according to this article, that's one of the areas. It's not the only area. Now, I could read more. It says, in the human brain's activity consists with that of mirror neurons has been found in the premotor cortex, the supplementary motor area, the primary somatosensory cortex, and the inferior parietal cortex. So one of the things about narcissists is their frontal cortex tends to be either damaged or it tends to be small, like it didn't develop. So basically, narcissists have a lot of mirror neurons that are just out of control. It's just like that's just who they are. So in this video, what's the name of it again? Hold on. The one with House MD. It's called the Mirror Man, House MD. Dr. House realized, because they had this patient that kept having all these different symptoms. And so one of Dr. House's assistants said, look up on the board. So first he had this, now he has this. So these are all different patients in rooms next to him or across the hall. And now he's got abdominal pain like, so-and-so right across the hall, blah, blah, blah. And Dr. House goes, huh. So first they thought it was one like I can't remember, Munchenhausen or whatever. And then he's like, no, it's not. He goes, he has Mirror Man syndrome because he's taken on other people's personalities. Does that sound familiar? So then all of a sudden the two doctors working on this guy like, oh, he's fine. We didn't have to intubate him because they first like, oh my God, he's got this and this and that. And he takes, so you can literally take on other people's illnesses, their stomach pains, their emotions and everything, okay? So Dr. House goes, oh, he's got Mirror Man syndrome. His brain doesn't know who he is, where he is, or what he's doing. Does that sound familiar? Sounds exactly like a narcissist. They have no idea who they are. They're an empty shell inside. They just take on the next person's personality that happens to come into their life. Now, as an empath, you might be thinking, wait a minute, I've done something very similar. So what ends up happening with you is you can take on other people's stomach aches and pains and you get exhausted and tired. Well, that's the mirroring effect that a narcissist will do to you, okay? Because it gets reversed. When someone mirrors you over and over and over, you take on their energy. Now, if it's someone who's very healthy, very smart, very talented, you get to learn a lot of really good things. And your physical health over a period of time will become better. Now, remember, mirror neurons in and of themselves are not bad. It's a natural part of our development and growth. And when you're become an adult, okay, so you're not supposed to rely on these things like you did when you were a little infant. You're eventually supposed to come out of that part of your brain and begin to develop the left and the right human brain. For some reason, narcissists don't do this, and I believe it's because as they were growing up, there was a parent or both parents that allowed them to do this to people and then to abuse people and hurt people, and they almost got not qualified, but they got rewarded. The parents was, oh, like I told you about that little kid. He was like 3 years old. He grabbed his sister, who I believe was 2 years old, grabbed her head and smashed her head against the wall like really hard, and the mom was like, oh my God, and the dad was like, you can't, you need to apologize to your sister. And I remember the kid had this real lost look on his face, like, why? And so instead, because the sister was getting all the attention and love, he went and banged his head against the wall And then the mom and dad is, oh, that's so cute. And they completely ignored the little girl who was crying. And obviously the kid didn't bang his head against the wall anywhere near as hard as he banged his sister, but they literally rewarded him for that. So he's learning like, oh, I can do these things to get attention and love. And how was I going to say this? And he got rewarded for it. So here he is banging his sister heads on the wall. He got attention for that. Remember, what do narcissists want? They want unearned attention. Now here's Dr. House with this guy. He just wants to see what happens. He takes him into the operating room, and he takes on the surgeon's personality like within seconds or within minutes. And he even starts using words that guy has used. If you watch this TV series, he takes on the words that doctor would have used that he actually never said in this meeting with this guy. Now, what does that sound like? Have you ever been around a narcissist and they start using words that you use, and you're like, oh, what a coincidence. Those are your words I use, but I've never used them around this person. So how could they possibly know? It's because they begin to mirror you and take on your persona. So what ends up happening is House ends up talking to the doctor, and the doctor's like, well, who is this guy? What do you bring him in here? And here's what ends up happening. This guy started basically like attacking House the way this other, because House and this other doctor, can't remember his name, but they have like this back and forth kind of, like argument thing. There's a word for it, but they kind of go back and forth, kind of a game, kind of fun. They kind of cut each other down. And this guy starts to use the same verbiage that doctor normally would have used against House, and then the doctor, the surgeon, goes, I like this guy. And that's exactly what happens to every single one of these doctors who interacts with this guy. He becomes them. He takes on their fears. He takes on their shame. He essentially mirrors them exactly. He becomes them. And each and every one of these doctors in this TV show goes, man, I really like this guy. Because we like ourselves. We like who we are. So I made a video a long time ago about, hey, there's actually good news. If you really liked the narcissist or fell in love with them, you actually fell in love with yourself, and that's a very, very good thing. It's very healthy. So you never actually fell in love with them because there is no them. They are just an empty shell. They don't have a persona. They don't have a personality. They never developed it. They just spent their entire lives mirroring people and taking on other people's personalities since they were children. Now, the good news with this guy is he's not a narcissist. So just because someone mirrors you doesn't mean they're a narcissist, and it doesn't mean they have evil intentions. This guy literally just, he has too many mirror neurons and they're out of control, and this is just what he does. Now, does a narcissist do that? Yes, but a narcissist has evil intentions. So there's a difference there. So essentially, growing up, there was someone in that narcissist's life, probably more than one, people that absolutely were evil, mean, demonic people, and they took this on, and now they have this persona that's hidden inside them somewhere that comes out. So Dr. House starts to have fun with this, as he normally does, and what he does is he has each of the doctors work with them so he can find out what's going on inside them. Are they scared? Are they this? Are they that? What are their beliefs? And so it's it kind of becomes comedy because this guy becomes exactly like the person, just like a narcissist. Now here's the difference between a narcissist and an empath. A narcissist can never truly develop the skills that these doctors have, or an athlete, or etc. Now an empath, you can absorb information, but you're absorbing it fully, where a narcissist is more, it's just like a mirroring effect. They're not really absorbing the information, whereas an empath, you take it on. And so you can learn subjects really fast. You can get really good at sports really fast. People would be like, holy shit, are you sure you just started learning this? Like, yeah, are you sure you didn't compete in this sport for a couple of years before you came here? No, it's the first time I've ever done it. You pick up really, really fast compared to most people. So you have mirror neurons, as everyone has them. Everyone has them, and to some degree we use them, but it's more of a natural, normal, healthy sense where we can keep our sense of self. Now, here's the thing with that empaths is we tend to take on other people's energies, okay? and emotions. So here's how you deal with that. You have to really get good at grounding yourself emotionally. Okay, now this is something that I teach people how to do. The better you get at grounding, and it's something you're going to have to work on for a long, long time. So what essentially happens is you become your own being. Now, with the added benefit of being able to take on other people's knowledge and learning and abilities at a high level. So you can still mirror people. Like I said in sports, what is sports? You're constantly copying people. Well, okay, they turn the hand this way, so I'm going to turn my hand that way. So the athletes that get really, really good at mirroring other athletes, they get really good, really, really super fast. So mirror neurons have their place in life, in society. There's nothing wrong with them. The challenge with narcissists is they've never had a sense of self, whereas you did. Now you might shift into other people's energies, but you have a sense of who you are. And obviously a narcissist, they're going to use the things they learn about you against you, whereas you don't do that. You've never done that. Now, this doctor is working on this patient that has this mirroring defect, whatever you want to call it, and he starts, hey, who's that woman? And he goes, oh, that's so-and-so. And he goes, I don't really need a name. And then this doctor realized, like, oh, shit, he's mirroring me right now. He goes, hey, I'm a happily married man. And then he goes, so am I. But the patient's actually not married, but he just mirrors other people. So essentially, the doctor realizes, like, holy shit, he's freaking being me right now. And that's when he goes, hey, I'm not like that. I'm a married man. So, yeah, essentially he is like that. He did like that lady and thought she was attractive. So, during, again, it's the same. I did a lot of NLP trainings, but there's this one 5-week training, NLP, hypnosis, energy healing training that had a major impact. And one of the things they said, and I've read this in quite a few books, is that we are all unconsciously mirroring each other. It's like we're in this play, and what we do on an unconscious level is we bring up each other's issues to be healed. Okay, so it's almost like okay, here's the deal. We communicate unconsciously at a very high level. Okay, human beings do this. Okay, and animals do too. So we're not conscious of the unconscious movements, body language, and stuff like that. Now, if you've dealt with narcissist abuse and you're watching videos like mine, you're at a higher level than the average person. You don't even realize it yet, but you're beginning to be conscious of these things that were unconscious. So you watch them go, holy shit, they're mirroring me. Whereas the average person wouldn't see that. So during the training, what they said was, we are essentially, when we walk into a room, it could be a room of friends or strangers, we're on an unconscious level. Some of the people in the room, we will unconsciously communicate to them like, hey, I want you to do this to me because I'm trying to get over this issue. And then this person will suddenly walk up and they'll be a jerk, or they'll point something out, or they'll do something. You're like, oh my God. And then you go home to your friends, oh God, it happened again. Oh my God, it happened. Like, okay. I've got a friend that I've known since middle school, and it's always men this and men that, men, and we're all looking at her like, oh my, like God, she's 50 some years old now. We're all looking at her like, how do you not see that this is you? Now, I love her to death, but she has never, ever gone to therapy, never, ever even considered the possibility that maybe there's something that she's doing, at the very least, to create these situations and or attract these type of people into her life. So yeah, there are some men and some women that are cheaters. There are some men and some women that are narcissists. There are some men and some women that are empaths. There are some, in other words, there's a myriad of people out there. So why is it that this one person has always ran into the same type? Because she has an issue that needs to be healed and cleared. And until she literally looks at herself in the mirror and one day goes, okay, wait a minute. Ever since I was 12 years old, I've had this same problem with men. I wonder if it has something to do with me. Now, she's not at that point yet. In fact, she just verbally, viciously denies any responsibility, any possibility that has anything to do with her at all. And here's the deal. She has some really, really good friends that she's known since childhood. And on Facebook, they all responded like, I've been happily married to the same man for over 25 years. Not all men are this way. She's like, oh, well, you just got lucky. That's just, you hit the jackpot, or you won the lottery with that guy. In other words, it's just 1 in 100 million, because most men are not like that. So here's the deal. On an unconscious level, she is drawing certain... Now here's the deal. There's certain people that she had been with that had never cheated in their life, but once they dated her, they actually cheated on her. Now this is what I'm talking about. Have you ever bumped into someone at a coffee shop, or maybe your friends introduced you, and for some reason you did something that you've never done in your life? Well, here's what happened. You got sucked into their vortex. You got sucked into their mirror neurons, and you reflected back to them something that they needed to learn about who they are. So on this natural thing that we humans do, we role play and stuff without even realizing we're doing it on a conscious level. But if you really become conscious, like, wow, I just did something I've never done in my life. And you're like, what the hell is that? Well, you're role playing something unconscious that person needed to see over and over and over. And that's what happens. It keeps coming back until you learn the lesson, until you heal the emotion. And then pop, all of a sudden you never have that problem anymore. So House, the doctor on the right in this TV series, he's the antagonist. He's always trying to poke at people's stuff, their issues, and point it out. And people, no, I'm not like that. And here comes Mirror Man, who doesn't poke at them, who doesn't do that. He becomes them. And people look at that and go, oh. And essentially, that's what a Heyoka is. They call them the backward men. They do things in reverse. So one thing a Heyoka will do is they will mirror you. In a good way, though, in a way so you can begin to see your own stuff. And then what they will do is they will do the complete 180 degrees reverse opposite of what you ever would think in a million years, to take you to the other side so you can go all the way miles and miles the other direction, and then turn around and look back at you. And then you can begin to see yourself so you can begin to heal and adjust. So mirroring in and of itself is not a bad thing. It's a learning process. It's a healing process. The difference with narcissists is they want to destroy you and damage you for life. So it's like anything in life can be used for positive or negative. Anything. So here's how it all started. So let's just use the phrase creator or oneness. Okay, so there was this pure being, oneness. Just oneness. Just one. Because of that, it didn't know it existed. And that's what it says about angels. Angels are so pure, they don't even know they exist, because there's no contrast to reflect back something that's different. Therefore, they have no idea that they... See, without contrast, you can't taste. You can't see. There's no color. There's no contrast. In other words, one of the things my art teacher said in high school is, oh, the image is already on the paper. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's a blank piece of paper. He's, no, it's there. You just need to add the contrast to it to see it. And so in the beginning, we learned this technique in the first couple weeks of class of how to do shading really, 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 really dark. And there's a technique to it to then get lighter and lighter and lighter to where you can't see the difference between dark and light, okay? So you get this real strong contrast on one side, then it goes, kind of blends lighter and lighter all the way into white. The same thing they say about, I think it was Michelangelo who carved the statue of David. And I don't know if it was him or another one, but he said, look, there's this big block of stone. And the person's like, well, how do you do that? He goes, well, I don't do it. And he goes, well, what do you mean? He goes, oh, the shape is already there. The statue's already in that block of stone. The guy's like, no, it's not. It's just a block of stone. And he goes, no. He goes, all I'm doing is chipping away the outside of it to get rid of the excess stuff so you can see the shape that's inside. So essentially he's saying, I'm just basically giving it contrast. Now here's God, one, whole, pure. He doesn't know he exists, or she, or whatever you want to call it. There's existence, it's always been there, but because everything was pureness and oneness, it had no awareness of itself. So what it had to do, it had to break off a part, so a drop of its energy, and push it outside of itself, so now it can look back at itself. And so essentially, we are all parts of God. We are all droplets of God. And God is living through our experiences, the good, the bad, the painful, the happy, the joys, the ups, the downs, the foods, the flavors, the sounds, everything. Essentially, God has made a lot of mirror neurons, okay? So each of us also have, so these little droplets can be what we call charges or parts. And each of us has different parts, different charges, so we can look back. And it's not like it's just one, because if you had one, man, you would be one conscious being, like, holy shit. So essentially, one thing they taught us is a technique called parts integration. In energy healing, we call it clearing. Like, you take the charge, and the charge heals, and it comes back into the whole and becomes one, like water. It's not like there's 2 or 3 or 4 drops. It's like, no, just one larger drop. It's oneness. It's one being, not 4 or 5 or 10 or 15 different beings. So during this training, I'd ask a question. I go, what if you literally can heal all of your parts and now you just have one? Like just one being, one part technically. And the trainer said, that's funny. That's a very interesting theory. He goes, there's a lot of people who have different thoughts. Some people believe that if you actually do that, you would physically disappear because you have no contrast. Meaning, once you become one, you go back into God. You go back into the soul, the universe, the source, whatever you call it, and you become oneness with it again. Now, I don't mean like you are hanging out inside the body of God or source and you're like checking things out. No, like you don't. It's like, I'm not going to say that you don't know that you exist, but you become a part. No, that's the wrong way to say it, because you're not a part. You're not separate. You become the wholeness of the larger part. So you become it, and it becomes you. And now there's not you and it. Now there's just it. So essentially, this could be what the Big Bang is about, the opposite of pureness. It's like when there became this contrast, there was this Big Bang, and all of a sudden you had creation. Creation is when you have all these different parts. Now, obviously, the challenge with parts is, well, yeah, but part of me wants to do this and a part of me wants to do that, and they're in conflict with each other. But when you could heal those two, the conflict goes away, and now you have more power and more energy. Alright, so here's the end game. So essentially, when you can begin to notice people around you and notice they're mirroring you, number one, there's nothing wrong with mirroring, but if it's excessive, that's when you're like, whoa, what's going on here? But here's what really happens. I'm going to give an experience that I just had last night. Alright, so this whole process with Narcissists is a healing process, okay? So one of the things when you deal with Narcissists, it's like you're dealing with the devil, and it's scary. It's a very scary, dark place, especially if you've gone through it. Some people are like, oh, I've dealt with Narcissists. You could tell that if they have, it was a very light level of it. But then there's people who've been through the nightmare and like they don't even want to talk about it, okay? Or they do everything to hide from it or whatever, okay? They literally hide from the world. So here's the end game. So I've lived in the area I've lived in for over 20 years. And there's this person that I would see at the coffee shops or hanging out, as I'm driving down the street, they're on the sidewalk. And for the longest time, I thought this person was homeless. And it turns out he actually has a place to stay, but he's broke and he's on government assistance and all this stuff. And that's fine. There's no judgment. That's not my point. But I never talked to the guy. One time he came up and said something to me. And there was another time I actually gave him $5. Now, the weird thing is this guy just for some reason stood out to me all these years. But I just kind of avoided him because I had something, I don't know what it was. There's just kind of a funky feeling, okay? So I went for a walk at night, as I do a lot. And I've seen him on my walk quite a bit. But I've never said it, and I'm talking for years. I get walked by where he lives. He's always out on this sidewalk by the church, up on this kind of lifted up thing where you can sit. It's about a foot, maybe a foot and a half high, so it's like perfect height to sit on. And he's usually out there with one or two of his friends or neighbors and smoking cigarettes or doing whatever. I just walk by and don't even acknowledge them, and they just kind of stare at me, and I just kind of walk by. Now, I don't mean that I don't acknowledge them out of being a dick, but it's just kind of like there's, I don't know, nothing there. No, I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't smoke pot, so I'm not, it's whatever. Just keep going. But I've always had this positive, I guess, kindness towards this guy. And he's always been kind of same towards me. So here's the deal. 2 nights ago, he was there by himself, and for some reason I just walked by and I said hello or something. I forget what I said to start the conversation. And we ended up talking for about an hour, hour and a half. And it was a really good conversation, very comfortable, very cool. Like, well, it's like, man, this guy's really cool, man, right? So as I walked away, of course, my radar system's going, is he a narcissist? Because we dealt with those fuckers enough, right? And so that came up, and I kind of tuned into what we said, what he said, what he did. Like, no, he had his own stories talking about himself and where he's from, and that's something narcissists generally don't do. They don't go in depth. Like this guy, all he talked about was fishing, and when he lived in Indiana, and when he lived in all these other states, and he was this, and he would fish, and he did this and that, and it was like I could literally just shut up and listen to this guy for 10, 15 minutes straight. So it wasn't the probing questions like a narcissist. So it's like, I have a really good feeling about this guy. There's kind of a good thing. So, but there's that awareness thing that when you get to know someone, like, well, you don't know yet. Now, last night I went for a walk again, and lo and behold, he's there with this woman. Now, he's 61 plus. I don't remember it said 61 or maybe he said 64. I don't remember. And then he's with this woman who's a little bit older than him. And she seemed like a really nice lady, well kept and, clean and all that stuff. But I kind of got the image from what she said, because she was very vague about everything. Like I said, oh, where are you from? And she didn't answer the question. And, oh, where do you live? And she didn't answer the question. Like, geez, what's going on? Like, and I even said, like, well, how'd you guys bump into each other? And he goes, oh, I've known her for years, but I haven't seen her for years. Like, oh, okay. And I asked, like, well, how did you guys, like, I don't understand, like, do you live together? He's like, no. I was like, well, how did you guys bump into each other? And she just wouldn't answer the damn question. So I finally asked him. He goes, oh yeah, I just walked outside, and she was here. Now, the night before, he did say something that I actually liked. He said, the way I was brought up, back in the day, it was like, you could sit at the same table with 3 different people that had 3 completely radically different beliefs about life or politics or religion or whatever, and no one cared. There was no yelling and screaming and, you're a horrible person, like, because you just shared who you were, and nobody cared. So I really liked that, and my first thought was like, that's funny, because that's the way I was raised. And I'm like, is this guy somehow figuring out that that's one of my beliefs? Now, I'd never spoken to this guy before, and he doesn't know me from Adam or Eve at all, okay? So I just kind of brushed it off, and I'm thinking, he might actually generally just be someone that I get along with. Now, the main thing is the feeling. It just feels good. There's a good feeling in my gut. There's nothing weird. Now, with this lady, I just got this, she was nice at first, and she was very complimentary, okay? Now watch this. So they invite me to join them, and I sit down, and we're talking, and she complimented me again, and I thought, it's kind of nice, whatever, and okay, whatever, which is a narcissist thing. That's love bombing, right? And I'm not really thinking anything bad about the lady, but I am kind of wondering, are these guys narcissists? It's just kind of, I always kind of keep that thought out there. And I'm tuning into what's being said and the way it's being said. And one thing I noticed is she starts to mirror me. She starts matching my body language, but she starts to mirror me. Every movement I make, she makes. And I just kind of like, she was over to my left out of my corner of my eye. So I'm like peripherally watching her. I'm like, man, everything I do, she freaking copies. And I was like, okay, this is a little weird. But here's what tuned me into it. I had this clingy feeling around my arms, and it was kind of weird. I'm like, what is this feeling? And so I kind of started to notice, like, she's freaking mirroring me every single thing that I'm doing and saying. Now, I also, number one, had throughout the whole conversation, even though she's being very nice, very complimentary, being very agreeable, mirroring me, saying the things that I'm saying, agreeing with what I'm saying, I just had this feeling of clinginess, kind of a creepy feeling, and there was like this darkness in her, okay? Now, as I got to know this lady, she's basically, she is homeless, but I wouldn't say homeless. She's more like a vagabond. She just kind of bounces from people's houses to different people and I'm sure that's what she's doing there. She's probably going to like stay with him for a while. Okay, that's an assumption I'm making, but it was just, and so it's not even that, but here's the deal. There was just something about her that was just not right. And there was like a darkness in her. So here's my point of this whole video. Is the difference is this. With the first guy, I don't have any bad feelings. It's like nothing but, he's just sharing his life and this is who I am. He's kind of doing his own thing. Whereas with her, she's trying to become like me. And okay, watch this. Now here's the deal. I would say to some degree he's mirrored me a little bit, but not a lot. There's not this whole like constant working effort to mirror me. Okay, it's more of a natural kind of effect. Whereas with her, she's purposely doing it. She's definitely conscious of doing it. And there's this, here it is right here. This is it. One of the things that I've learned in a lot of the teachings and trainings and schools that I've gone to is it has to do with intention. What is your intention? So one of the things they said, anything can be used for good or bad. Let's take a knife. You can make your child a sandwich to feed your child, which is very good. Or you can use the knife to stab someone, which is very bad, okay? And it really does have to do with your intention. So one of the things that, during this 5-week NLP training, now this wasn't the first one, this was like the second one of these big, long 2, 3, 5-week trainings. And they said, look, we understand, we have taught you a lot of techniques. And they said, it's not the techniques that heal the person. We're like, wait, what? What are you talking about? They're like, I know it's going to piss you off, but it's not the techniques. And we're like, what do you mean? It's the intention behind it. It has nothing to do with the technique. The technique is just kind of like this mechanical thing to get you going, to get the intention out there, and that's what heals them. So over the next few years, I was studying Huna, and then I got certified at Reiki in level 1, and then I went from there and I immersed myself much more in Pranic Healing. So with Pranic Healing, I went to the level 1 training, got certified, and then I started going to these weekend trainings for I think 6 months or longer. Then I got involved with the actual teachers and having dinners and lunches, and we'd have these small group meetings and dinners. And I learned a lot is what I'm saying. But here's the thing that really stood out. So one day I'm doing this technique to help heal this person that I learned from, Huna, let's say. And they healed. And then I started learning Pranic Healing, and Pranic Healing was something that I just clicked with. I really, really liked it. I connected with it for whatever reason. And boom, I shifted over. I'm using these techniques. And these are totally different techniques, but for the same things, for the same healing effect, right? So now I'm dealing with someone who had the same issue that this other person had that I worked with a year ago, but I'm using a completely radically different technique, and it worked. And I went, wait a minute. So in Reiki you do this, in Huna you do that, and in Pranic Healing you do this for that. They all work. It's because it's not the technique, it's the intention. So there's another time before all of this. This is before I think I even got certified in any kind of form of energy healing. Now I was studying NLP, timeline therapy, hypnosis, etc. in psychology. I think actually we did actually get a 8-hour certification in Huna. So it kind of opened my brain to stuff. So I was meditating every day, and I was working with this client, and then she was just stuck, and I felt embarrassed, like, man, what do I do? So out of desperation, I said, why don't you close your eyes and kind of quiet your mind? Something just came to me out of the clear blue sky, and it was something I'd never heard of, read, and I just imagined floating up above my mind, up above my head, about 10 feet up, and then I imagined her doing it. Now, I didn't tell her. And then it was like my spirit went over and talked to her spirit, and we did the technique up there. And then we both came back down, and she the minute I imagined her spirit coming back down in her body, she opened her eyes real fast. She goes, oh my God. And then she just explained the whole thing that I just did. And I'm like, yeah, that's the technique that I just did. She goes, oh my God. And it healed her of her issue. So you might now be going, okay, what the hell does this have to do with Narcissist and the end game? Well, I'm going to tell you. All right. So what happened was I'm talking to these two people just last night, and this lady's giving me this creepy ass vibe. She's a nice lady. She looks nice. Her hair's beautiful. She's just surprisingly in good shape and just healthy and vibrant. Beautiful lady, actually. But I was getting the creeps from her. So everything about her appeared to be nice, and she spoke about spirituality and love, and everything sounded and looked wonderful, but something was not right. So it was the intention. So here she is mirroring me. Now here's the thing. When you learn rapport skills in NLP, a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to go around manipulating people. Like, no, you're not. Because what you're doing is you're opening the door. So now you can't hide behind anything. When you open the door wide open, they get to see who you are. That's what rapport skills do. You're opening the door. So here this lady is doing this mirroring technique, and I'm just kind of like, something's not right here, because the intention behind it was dark. Whereas with the other guy, he was just telling me, when I lived in Indiana, we used to go do this, and we used to go do, oh, it was an amazing time, and he was just going on and on about his life. Whereas narcissists don't do that. They don't go on and on about their life at all. It's always about you, probing questions. And if you ask them questions, they, like, I can't remember what I asked. I asked something, just give me this real quick answer, and boom, moved on. Like, you know, as I look back now, I don't know anything about this person's past. Almost nothing. So here's the end game. It was quite obvious this lady had some kind of manipulation going on. And the other thing that I could tell, now this is going to really flip around even more than this, is I could tell she had evil intentions. It was like her way of getting things was by hurting you, was by manipulating, by controlling, by beating you down, by telling you that you're wrong. Now, she hadn't done any of this yet at all. We're still in the what we call the love bombing phase. Whereas this other guy, he was just glad to talk to you. He was just hanging out. Needed someone to talk to. He's getting up there in age. He's retired and, you know, kind of doing his thing, right? So here's my point, is there is an end game. Now watch this. Okay, here's my point. So if I would have bumped in this lady about a year, maybe a year and a half ago, definitely a year plus, I would have been like, fuck this, I'm out of here, fuck this. Something's not right. She's mirroring me. This is creeping me out. She's got this clingy, I'm gone, fuck, she's a narcissist, fuck that, she's a demon, I'm out of here, screw this. And I'd run home and go, oh my God, they're everywhere. Now, it's more like, oh, she's got this mirror man neuron syndrome going on, which is essentially what narcissists are. They've got this mirror man neurons syndrome going on. Sorry if I said that wrong. Okay, so they got this syndrome thing going on, and there's nothing inside. They don't know who they are. They're lost. They're, you know, it's like they don't know how to function in the world, so they basically grab onto anyone that will let them. Which in the past was you or me. Now here's the thing that I realized about this lady is she just didn't have any other tools. She didn't have any other skills or abilities. She just developed these really horrible things, and, well, this is how I survive in the world. I need someone to live with. I need someone to pay the bills because I can't function in the world, and on and on and on. For whatever reason, she's done these really, really negative things. Whereas, as I've said in the past videos, is like, you want to be a powerful person. You want to be around powerful people. But you'd be surprised how many empaths are like, no, power's bad, power's wrong, you're going to hurt someone. No. A father can feed their child with a knife. That doesn't mean the father's going to kill the child because he has a fucking knife. Everything, everyone comes down to intention. Period. End of sentence. It became real obvious that this lady's intentions were dark. They were not good. There was an anger behind everything she said. There was this, you know, I'm not going to try to explain anymore, but I think you're getting the point. So here's another thing they taught us during our NLP trainings. Look for the communication behind the words. In other words, because, okay, one thing they taught us is words are a very horrible way to communicate. It's words are only 7% of communication. Everything is about the tone, tempo, the rhythm, it's the vibrance of the word, the resonance of the voice, everything, the facial expression, the body language. That's 93% of communication. So when you're looking for, okay, they're saying these words, but what is the intention behind those words? What is the message they're trying to get me to understand? Now, one of the coolest things that I've learned and developed over the years is I can listen to someone communicate and realize like they have no idea what they're saying. They're not even hearing themselves. So here's the end game, folks. So here I was dealing with two different people, and I was out of training, development. I'm always looking for what's behind the communication. Okay, yeah, they're doing this. Why are they matching and mirroring me right now? I don't just freak out when people are gaining rapport. Gaining rapport is a very healthy and good thing. Again, what's the intentions behind it? So, as I said before, normally if I caught someone mirroring me at that level, like constantly, because normally when you match and mirror someone to gain rapport, you just do it for a couple of minutes and you stop doing it. Once you have rapport, you stop. Otherwise, you're going to break rapport. So, again, like if we go back to the mirror neuron thing, if you keep mirroring someone, what happens is they will take on your issues and your energy. And that's the thing when you get around narcissists, they have real dark energy and it's real messed up place. So you start feeling that. Well, the difference was this. I'm watching this lady going, oh, I see what she's doing. And I did feel kind of some of that clingy, controlling, like, ooh, I didn't like this. So I really paid attention to my intuition. I just started looking at her going, well, what's going on with her? Like, why is she doing this? And that's where I started to realize, like, oh, I can see it now. So the end game is for you to begin to see and notice people and their intentions behind it. So before I'd be like, oh shit, this is a narcissist, and I get scared and I'd run. Whereas this time I was like, wow, I really, like, she's really trying to connect with me, and she has her own agenda going on, and I don't want to have nothing to do with it. So I got up and politely said, hey, goodbye guys, nice to see you, nice to meet you, ma'am, and I walked. Here's the thing, I slept like a baby. An absolute baby. So on this journey, you're going to begin to get to the level where you can see it and realize these are just empty people that are messed up and they're completely lost. They have no idea who they are. They don't know what they're doing, and they don't know where they're going, and they don't know how. So instead of looking at people that are narcissist or anyone that has dark energy, because everyone to some degree has some kind of dark energy going on, okay? Some of us just happen to be worse than others. And so instead of looking at them like, oh my God, they're this horrible person, they're going to kill me, which they may try, you start to just see them for what they are and be like, that's just the space they're in right now. They have a lot of healing to do. And you walk away. See, the thing is, I'm not saying that you have to like be like, oh, it's okay because, you know, we're all like it. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you start to recognize it right away and you take off. Now, with narcissists, if you stick around long enough, they tend to connect and attach to you and they don't want to let go. Whereas when you pick up on this stuff sooner and faster, you're like, oh, I get it. They're just one of those people and this is where they're at. And you just leave peacefully and you have compassion for them. So am I changing my mind on destroying narcissists? No, not at all. When you get a narcissist that is attached to you and they won't leave and they keep coming back and they're doing really messed up stuff, yeah, go on the attack. Everything I said in the past, from call them on their shit to tell them who they are to just, you know, whatever. And eventually they're like, wow, this person's not falling for my shit anymore. And then they're going to stop coming around because narcissists can't stand being called on their shit. They can't stand being held accountable. They can't stand if you shame them publicly. So yeah, everything I've said in the past videos, that applies when you're like, oh, this person was coming around, they're calling me, texting me, and they won't fucking leave me alone. Yep, fucking go after them. So here's the end of this video. The purpose and the point of this video is there is an end game, and when you start to see people mirroring you and doing this stuff and you see the intention behind it, Because, okay, the biggest problem that we have, those of us who've been attacked by narcissists, like, well, who's a narcissist and who's not? Because I thought all these people were nice people, and turns out they were doing this damn technique called love bombing. So how do you know? The intention behind the love bombing, the intention behind the mirroring, the intention behind everything. Start looking for that. You'll start to see it, and you'll be like, oh, I understand. I see this person for who they are now. Don't want to have nothing to do with them. Boom, and you get out before they make any connection at all. In fact, this lady constantly was asking me for my Facebook page. Well, you know, I want to connect with you. Oh, I was like, oh, I don't have one. She was asking me for how do I contact you? Oh, and I changed the subject because that's how they start to connect with you. And it's like, no, I realized like with this lady, like I'm not going there. And it's kind of funny because we'd only been talking for about an hour, and she was just trying to get my information. It's like, nope, I'm not going there. Evaded, changed the conversation, flat out said I don't have a Facebook page, you know, etc. I admit before I wouldn't do that. I would be like, oh, okay, even though everything in my gut's going, no. I actually had someone, he used to work at the Honda dealership, and he pulled up, started talking to me, and I always had kind of this really creepy feeling because he's always this overly friendly guy. I'm like, dude, I'm just trying to buy a fucking part here, man. And he pulls up, hey, what's going on, man? Hey, I work at this other place now, and come on by. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, dude. Like, whatever, dude. And he goes, hey, man, give me your number so I can call you. I'm like, and I go, no, I don't think so. And he goes, really? I'm like, yeah, no, I gotta go. All right, see you later, dude. I was on my bike, by the way, and I bolted. I'm like, I'm fucking out of here. Something did not feel right with this dude. Now, whatever it was, I don't know. I didn't care. So I guess the point I'm saying is you're going to get better at saying no to people. In fact, start to revel in it. And here's the thing, man. When I took off, I actually felt good about that. And even with that lady, I walked away feeling like, yep, didn't fall for that damn trick again. So if you've listened this far, congratulations. You're basically taking a master class that's teaching you stuff that you may not even realize till years down the road. Like, holy shit, all those stories about look for the intention behind what they're doing or behind their words, that actually paid off. It will. You'll see. I know because it paid off for me. Hey, this is Mike Colleen at MikeColleen.com. Go ahead and check out my website. Click subscribe. Click the like button. Make a comment. And I'll see you guys in the next video. God bless you.